Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Game Day Show. This is your source for sports entertainment. I'm currently with an NBA analyst. His name is...
I'm Sam.
And everyone, this is Sam. So we went on a trip together, and now he's become one of my good friends. He is part of the NBA. I'm Ethan Bass, of course. This is episode 41 of the Game Day Show. Exciting news coming up. College is coming back. College football, baby. Super exciting. We're only 3 weeks away from the first couple games. We're going to have previews all next week. We're going to be doing all of that next week. But this episode's all about the NBA. We're going to be talking about a little bit about the Alabama situation of Bryce Young, how he made the NIL $1 million, crazy. But we're going to talk about the winners and losers of the NBA free agency and a couple other things in the NBA. So let's get rolling. All right, so NBA free agency has started a couple weeks ago, and it's been a huge offseason for the NBA. We have countless trades, signings. It's been absolutely bananas in the world of the NBA. We're going to share our two winners and our two losers, starting with our first winner. Who do you got?
I got the Lakers.
Really?
Some major assets they signed. They got Westbrook. They got Carmelo. They got Nunn. They got Wayne Ellington. One more center I'm forgetting about, but they just got a lot of major assets, and they didn't really lose anybody that big.
I'm very proud of the Lakers. Now, the Lakers are obviously not coming off a championship as AD was hurt. But the Lakers have made some big things, getting to Kendrick Nunn, who is a great point guard for the Miami Heat. Speaking of the Miami Heat, I actually have them as my first winner. I think that Kyle Lowry, on his way to Miami, he signed a $90 million deal. We'll talk about that a little later, what possibly could go wrong with that. But Jimmy Butler obviously signed a $184 million extension. I mean, that was amazing. Duncan's obviously staying. Maybe they overpaid him with $90 million. PJ Tucker's, Markieff Morris, Dwayne Dedman, and obviously Max Strus and Gabe Vincent. So I think the Miami Heat are on a roll this offseason. I think that this is going to be a team that could honestly make a big push in the playoffs. We saw them a couple years ago when they went to the finals. I love Eric Spoelstra as the head coach. I really love their offseason, the Miami Heat.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. They're my second winner in the Heat. They also have an undrafted guy, Omar from Turkey, who's been playing amazing. He in a U18 game a couple years ago, he scored 92 points in one game.
Fantastic.
And in his first two summer league games, he scored a combination of 52 points. And in his first game, he had 27 rebounds, a major asset for the Heat if he can pull through. The Heat have been really good with getting these undrafted guys like Doug Robinson, Udonis Haslem. They've had a lot of experience with the undrafted players, and I think they can continue to do that with Omar.
I cannot.
Major asset.
100%. I mean, we're Heat fans, right? So I'm just excited to see what this team can do.
Yeah, they can make a major push, and I think they have a chance at the chip this year.
100%. I mean, it's a very tough, conference with obviously the Bucks, and then my second winner is the Chicago Bulls. Now, coming before the offseason, we did see some speculation of a couple of the things they could do, but the Bulls were not a team I would expect to make a huge push, and I think that they're a huge playoff team this year. They had Lonzo Ball, a great point guard. I wouldn't call one of the best point guards. I would call him a great point guard at an $85 million deal with a sign-and-trade agreement. That was according to Woj. Garrett Temple, Thomas Satoransky, and a second-round pick are going to New Orleans. We'll talk about New Orleans in a second. Alex Caruso, baby, is coming for 4 years at $37 million. And DeMar DeRozan. Now, DeMar, if you remember DeMar in Toronto, DeMar was a superstar. I mean, he was even on the All-Star starting team for maybe 4 years in a row. I like to see him make that big push again. I think he's going to roll out small forward at an $85 million deal for a sign and trade. And Tony Bradley's going to Chicago as the backup center. So I really like what Chicago did this offseason.
Yeah, they did a really good job. You wouldn't have expected this going into the offseason, and they just started with the Lonzo thing 10 minutes into the trade allowance period, and then they got Caruso and DeMar, which is pretty crazy if you think about it.
Yeah, and they still have Laurie marketing. They obviously still have Zach LaVine. So this team is going to be very dangerous. Okay, Sam, so who is your loser of the 2021 NBA free agency?
Honestly, no other team speaks out more than the Pelicans. They lost major assets with Lonzo, and they really got nobody in return. They got Devontae Graham, for around $12 million a year for 4 years, which is a good contract, but he's nothing compared to Lonzo. He might not have the chemistry with Zion, and they got Garrett Temple, but he's nothing special, and they're not really gaining anything, but they lost a lot.
Hmm. Yeah, it really sucks for the Pelicans. I really like Lonzo. I'm wondering if this team. I mean, I think they have a lot of job picks for the future, so I wonder what they can do. My loser is actually not a team; it's a player. It's my favorite player actually in the whole NBA. It's Bradley Beal. The reason why I say that is even though he didn't request a trade, even though he's so loyal to Washington, the problem is Russell Westbrook is obviously off to Los Angeles. Spencer Dinwiddie arrived. I really like Spencer Dinwiddie, but I don't think it's obviously the same level as Westbrook. I mean, the Wizards do have some nice 3 and D style options with Kadavis Caldwell-Pope and Kyle Kuzma. I just don't think Bradley Beal, you know, I just feel bad for him just because he's been with the team, his whole career for about 8, 9 years now, and he hasn't really made the playoffs, besides a couple years, and he hasn't really like gone far. And I mean, he's my favorite player, so I really hope he can make the playoffs soon. I mean, they do have some young pieces in the Denai Alvida. Sorry if I say his name wrong. Roy Hachimura and Daniel Gafford. But other than that, I just don't see the Wizards doing anything.
Yeah, no, the Wizards didn't do anything that impressive. And then going back to the Pelicans, they also lost a lot of picks. They lost the 10th projected pick, who was supposed to be Zaire Williams, which is not that great for them. And going back to the losers, a player who lost this year is Dennis Schroeder.
Mm-hmm.
He turned
100%.
down a $92 million year a couple of years ago with the Lakers, and then a $42 million deal. I don't know what he signed for, but it's nothing compared to that, and he just lost out a lot.
I mean, if I'm a player, I would 100% take that option. I mean, the Lakers were obviously ready to move on, and the market around the league wasn't quite enough for him to go unsigned. But I think Shooter will maybe get a nice deal. I mean, did he? I mean, did he get signed? I'm not sure.
I don't think he has, so no money coming in right now for him.
Damn. Apparently, Damian Lillard was supposed to request a trade or at least get moved on. I mean, do you know the current status of Damian Lillard?
Damian Lillard, it's a very interesting story. A lot of the media was claiming that he requested a trade, but he put out a couple tweets saying that he wants to stay in Portland, and the media is doing what the media does and trying to put something out there. But he was saying that he never had the intention to leave Portland and wants to stay in Portland long term.
Mm-hmm. The Trailblazers changed from Terry Stotts to Chauncey Billups, which was a controversial because of past sexual assault charges. We're not going to get into that. They kept Norman Powell on a $90 million deal and added Cody Zeller and Tony Snell. But I mean, that's it. Is that like enticing to keep Damian Lillard in Portland? I mean, he's also like kind of like Bradley Beal, who's been loyal to a city. I respect that a lot since the NBA. I feel like now, like everyone's moving teams like in 2 or 3 years. So I respect the loyalty, but maybe it's time to move on from Portland.
Yeah, I think it is. He also has CJ McCollum there, who stayed there long term, but they also lost Ennis Cantor this year, which is very interesting to me because in 2018 he was with the Trailblazers, then he went to the Celtics in 2019, and this past year he was in back to Portland, and then now he's going back to the Celtics again. It's a very interesting situation for a player to go back and forth like that. But no, the Trailblazers lost him, and he's a major asset.
And they also lost Melo. Don't forget about that.
Yeah, they lost Melo. If you're losing that much, if I'm Lillard, the only reason I would stay is for the loyalty. But there's only one other player in the league that's being this loyal, which is Giannis. So I don't think there's that much of a need for Damian to stay there. I think he can go to a team that maybe is not like the Lakers, not like the Nets, but go to a medium, better than the Trailblazers, a little worse than them, and go for a championship. Maybe going for a team like Miami if Kyle Lowry didn't go there. Going to a team like the Bulls. I think that might be a major thing for him. I think he just needs to get out of Portland.
I heard talks about him going to the Knicks. How do you see that? I mean, is that like a possibility that he could go to New York?
New York fans always say they're going to get someone. A couple years ago, 100%. They were saying they're going to get Kyrie, get KD, get Zion. They ended up not getting anyone. This year, they luckily got someone for the first time ever. They got Kemba Walker. Seeing that Kemba Walker's a point guard, I do not see Damian Lillard going. But I think if they could make a deal for Kemba Walker and Dame, that could work.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see the Knicks doing well. And the fact is, Kemba Walker is one of those players that has been traded around a lot in the past 2 years. It's been like 4 trades, I think, in the past 2 years.
Yep.
And I think that he's a player that's going down and he's not getting better. And I think Portland might be a good place for him to end his career.
I do too. I think that he should move on, right? But then go to Portland, like 1 year left or something. Just kind of like Patrick Marleau did with the NHL, even though he's not retired. He went on to Toronto and then he came back to San Jose to finish off his career. I think this can be his last year. Anyways, let's move on to our next topic. All right, let's move on to college now. The college season's coming up in 3 weeks. Fall camp is happening a couple days ago, so it's super exciting. It's my favorite sport to cover. Obviously, it's the whole point of this podcast as we started it. So let's get right into it. Alabama. Alabama is a very interesting team. Everyone expects them to win every year. They obviously won last year. But they're replacing a huge offensive production. Mac Jones is gone. Obviously, the Heisman winner's gone too. So they're losing Najee Harris as too. So Alabama's a very interesting team. They are bringing in Bryce Young, but there's been a lot of controversy in Bryce Young just because of the whole NIL situation that's going on in the world of college, name, image, likeness. He has apparently made over $1 million, and he hasn't even started a game yet. We have seen him play, though, and flashes in some of these games, but Alabama has a really tough schedule. Obviously, they open up in Miami. They play Miami in Mercedes-Benz Stadium for the kickoff. I see Alabama winning that. I just don't. I don't think Miami's good enough with obviously De'Ara King. We don't know how his ACL is going. But the game I'm really looking at isn't the Florida game, even though that's going to be a critical game for Nick Saban and Bryce Young. Because that Florida atmosphere is crazy. I mean, 90,000 people screaming. I was at the Auburn game a couple years ago, and it was the craziest atmosphere I've ever been on. But I think the game everyone's circling isn't even the LSU game. I'm going with to A&M. Alabama has to travel to A&M on October 9th. That weekend's going to be insane. I think Gameday is going to go to that too. I think that's the big test. If Alabama really wants to compete for a national title again this year, and Bryce Young really wants to put an name on himself as a freshman, I think the A&M game is going to be huge. I think that's also a huge weekend in the world of college too. We have so many great games. I'll get to that in a couple weeks when we do our college predictions. Another game is obviously the Iron Bowl for Alabama coming off the end of the season. They always somehow lose that, either off a field goal. It's always been super tight over the years. Super excited about that. Bo Nix coming for Auburn. Super excited what he can do. I saw him as a freshman live when he was at Auburn, so it was pretty cool. Ole Miss, we're just kind of doing an SEC segment, I guess. Ole Miss is a really interesting team. Matt Corral is looking fantastic through fall camp. We obviously saw him last year put up crazy amount of points. I think he's the best quarterback in the SEC. Let's take a look at Florida right now. Florida is obviously losing Kyle Trask, Kyle Pitts, Kadarius Toney. So those are 3 offensive productions. The defense was not obviously on par as they would like to be. That's why I think they stalled last year. But the problem I have with Florida, even though as a Florida fan, is that you're switching from a pass-heavy offense where the O-line was obviously very good and pass-heavy. They were fantastic. But the run game, the run game for the O-line is not that best at Florida. I mean, they are returning Ethan White and Stuart Reese. But, I'm super excited just because Florida's backfield is insane. They have 5 guys who can really start. Emory Jones is coming in as quarterback, so it's going to be really exciting. A lot of people are now speculating Emory, not to be at the best, but he has played in major scenarios in games like the LSU game and the Auburn game back in 2019, obviously the Orange Bowl. So Emory, this is not a team where everyone's expecting, they're going to fall. I think the Florida will be pretty good next season. I predict them to lose 3 games. We're going to get into our schedule segment soon. Tennessee, they had the whole recruiting dumpster fire, as we all know, with the McDonald's bags. We're not going to get into that. That's very controversial. But Tennessee's an interesting team. They're starting a new quarterback, new coach. So South Carolina and a couple of these SEC teams. So the SEC is really looking strong this year. Super excited to see what they can do. And next week, we're going to do our full college preview. Okay, so major news broke out today in the NBA world. We're going back to the NBA. The NBA has apparently opened investigations into possible tampering violations involving two sign and trade deals completed in free agency: Chicago's acquisition of New Orleans star Lonzo Ball and Miami's acquisition of Toronto Raptors star Kyle Lowry. Sources told Woj and ESPN on Saturday. What do you think this impacts, obviously, the sport of the NBA, contracts, and how these players arrive in their new cities?
Honestly, tampering has always been a thing in the NBA, and it will continue to be a thing. I don't think the NBA trying to restrict it is a good thing for the league because it's just going to cause issues. You look back to 2 weeks ago, there was a circulating thing of Westbrook, LeBron, and Davis having dinner together, and notice how that's not on the tampering list that you just said. It's very interesting to think about what cases the NBA chooses to follow up on and what they don't. Mm-hmm. In regards to Lonzo Ball and the Chicago Bulls, that was a situation that was literally 10 minutes after 6 p.m. And you obviously know that there's tampering going on, but what's so wrong about tampering is what really confuses me. And with Miami, it was a good hour and a half, but still, just tampering, it's a thing that's always going to happen. It doesn't make sense why they're restricting it. And the consequences for tampering that the NBA has are pretty extreme. A $10 million fine to the team and loss of the second-round draft picks. And they even have the opportunity to void these contracts that are noticed with tampering, which is very extreme. Maybe fine them, but, you can't really take away their draft picks. You can't take away the contracts. It's a bit much for something that's an essential part of the sport.
Honestly, when I heard this news, I was in shock. I mean, I remember going on Twitter, a couple hours before 6 o'clock, hearing that Kyle Lowry could be a possibility or Lonzo could be a possibility. I didn't think you'll get this extreme, like you said, about the $10 million and obviously the draft picks. I honestly did not think it'll get that extreme, like I just said. The assign and trade agreements are more complicated and time-consuming than a typical free agent player signings, often needing a greater level of discussion and negations to complete, according to ESPN. I mean, what do you think is going to happen?
I think that they're going to take away a draft pick from both teams. I don't think they're going to avoid the contracts. They might fine the teams, but I don't think that's going to do anything. If the NBA really wanted to stop tampering, what they would do is instead of fining the teams, they would lower the team's salary caps, which would really be detrimental to the teams. But I do not think they should be doing anything. Tampering is a part of the sport that's going to go on forever. It's every major league. I don't see why they don't want it. I guess because they don't want the team, a player to do badly for their team. But when the NBA season is over, it really doesn't make much sense. Even if they were to take away second-round draft picks, the Heat really don't have any second-round draft picks for the next few years, which is very interesting to think about how would that impact what the NBA decision is with tampering. And the $10 million deal and the voiding of the contracts was a thing that the NBA Board of Governors decided upon this year, actually, the increase on that. And I also read something that said that the NBA has full access to go into the front offices of these teams, phone records, emails, texts, and all that to check for tampering. And it seems like a bit too much to do for something that's not really doing anything negative to the sport.
But yeah, it would just be very interesting to see what the NBA front office does with some of these teams, take away the draft picks, fine them. It's just been a crazy offseason. I'm super excited to see what the NBA holds. Quick, right before we wrap up the segment, who do you have winning?
The championship?
Yep.
I have it being, I don't think the Bulls are going to be able to pull it off. They have these major assets coming, but I don't think they're going to all fit together and work smoothly. The Nets, I don't think, are going to do well again. I see it being a Giannis versus Jimmy Butler rematch in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Now, now is that bias or is that just?
No, I feel like that's an honest opinion because I think the Bucks coming off this championship win, I think they can come back, and I think that the Heat with these acquisitions are able to also do that. And I don't think there's much competition in the East besides the Bulls, but I don't think the Bulls are going to be able to come together. And
You
then
are
for the
forgetting one
West,
team, the Nets.
the Nets. The Nets aren't going to be healthy. That's a big issue with that team. I think that they're not going to be able to stay healthy. They have 3 stars, 4 stars even, and they're not going to stay healthy. Even if LaMarcus Aldridge does come back to the team, I still don't think they would be able to pull off a championship. And I see in the West, I see the Lakers coming, and I see Luka having a year where he gets to the Western Conference Finals this year.
Yeah.
I think he can really pull it off. You saw him play with Slovenia. He had a really great Olympic run, coming in 4th, just shy of the bronze medal. But I think it's going to be a Lakers Heat rematch in the finals. But I do see the Lakers winning it.
Yeah. I see the Lakers winning it. The only problem I have is obviously injuries. They've been struggling with a lot of injuries through the course of when LeBron arrived. So, will AD get hurt? Will Russell get hurt? Because they're all prone, or LeBron. I mean, all 3 of them are prone to injuries. So I just want to, injuries are a huge part of the NBA. If you can stay healthy, you're pretty much, going to play pretty good unless, you're obviously the Sacramento Kings. RIP Sacramento fans, I'm sorry. But I don't think Buddy Hield's enough. Anyways, but I don't think the Nets will be healthy, like you said. I do have Miami going to the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't have pulling them off. I do have a dark horse in all of this. They didn't play to their expectation last year, but I think Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics are going to make the finals, and they're going to play the Lakers for a great rivalry that desperately needs, obviously an uphold. And I do have the Lakers winning and LeBron winning his 5th title.
Yeah, with the Lakers, though, the one problem they face is they have a very old, veteran-filled squad.
They do.
That is prone for injuries, same as the Nets. But I think not all of them are going to get injured, and maybe if Carmelo gets injured or if Westbrook gets injured, I think they'll still be able to pull it off. Because they did pull it off in 2020, was it? They pulled it off in 2020 with a couple injuries in their squad, and they still had enough players to pull it off. And they have the depth now, and I think they'll be able to do it. And with regards to the Boston Celtics, they had a couple of contracts that they signed this offseason, not major ones, but minor ones. But I think that Jason Tatum still needs to mature a little bit. I don't think he's on the level of Luka where he can carry a team that much. But I think maybe in a couple of years he'll be able to take a squad to a championship.
I just feel the Celtics.
If they sign someone else.
If
they sign someone else because all these teams are super teams now, so the Celtics do need someone else on their team.
I do think the Heat could possibly make the finals. I mean, we know what playoff Jimmy Butler is like. Obviously, he didn't perform. Tyler Hero obviously needs to perform better. We're not big Tyler Hero fans. Sorry, Tyler.
We want him off the team, to be honest.
To be honest, yeah, but obviously, as a Heat fan, I obviously want him to be very good. I think whatever fan you are, you obviously want like whoever you want to be pretty good. So this is gonna wrap up the episode. College episode all next week when we previewing. Obviously, we're 3 weeks away, so super excited. College season is back. NBA season free agency was crazy. I'm Ethan Bass.
I'm Sam.
And we'll talk to you all soon. Peace.